And we're going to have a special guest today, Tomaz from Australia, where it is 1 a.m. in the morning his time, and we'll be saying hello to him in just a second. Before that, I want to tell you a little bit about our show. Each week at this same time, we gather to discuss the technology, tools, and issues. Our weekly broadcast consists of a 1-hour session that is recorded. The link to the full video, audio recording, and chat log will be posted to our Classroom 2.0 live site at http://live.classroom20.com. The topic each week is posted on the Classroom 2.0 live site, and we prepare that in advance with links so that you can bring links, ideas, and tools that you might want to share, along with the newbie question of the week. We also have an open mic time so that you can share new discoveries or highlights from your previous week. And at the end of the show, we hope that you'll share your highlight with us. So be thinking of something that you'd like to share, or if you have a question about this show's topic, we hope that you'll join in and ask that question. Before we begin today, I'd like to review some of the Illuminate features in case you've never been to a session in Illuminate before. We're going to be asking some polling questions today, and to cast the vote, you'll be using your green X or the red check up in the menu bar, and I'll show you more about that screen in just a bit. Below the participant window is a hand with a green arrow on it, and that is if you wanted to speak or ask a question, you would click that button to raise your hand, and then we would activate the microphone for you to do so at that point in the show. There are also 2 emoticons next to that, the applause symbol and the thumbs down symbol that you can use. And in the far right is a blue door. If you need to step away from your computer, please click on the blue door, and we'll know that you're not available at that time. Below those symbols is the chat window. If you'd like to send a message to the room, you would type your message and click the send button. To send to this room, make sure this room is visible. If you wanted to send a message to a specific person or to the moderators, use the drop-down arrow to make your selection. Moderators are able to see all private messages throughout the session, so keep that in mind when you're sending messages, that the private messages do not show up in the chat log. In the bottom right is the button to activate your microphone. Click the mic button to begin speaking, and be sure to click the mic button when you're finished speaking to deactivate your mic. If you cannot see all of the windows or see the chat or the whiteboard and you'd like to resize the different windows, you can do so. Click on View in the top menu. The layout is locked, and you may need to click on the Layout Locked option to unlock this feature. You can then select the desired layouts as shown on the right, or drag out the individual windows to resize them to fit your screen or your preferences. In a moment, we'll be using the whiteboard tools to indicate our location. The tool that we'll be using is called the laser pointer. And it's the blue wand with the red sunburst kind of dial at the end. So right now, if you will please click on that laser pointer and then click on the location in the world map. You may need to drag the little point over to the right, because sometimes it sends it to the left just a little bit. And as you can see, we have several continents, several states represented. Europe, Australia, of course, with our special guest, Tomaz. And it's so great that you've joined us today to finish talking about Moodle. More Moodle mania today. And let's go ahead and move on to our first question. You'll notice at the top menu bar, there's a green check and the red X. that is where you'll vote in that menu bar. You won't be clicking on the screen to cast your vote. And the first question is Moodle available for you to use in your school district with students? If it is available to you and there is an install, then you will click the green check. If it's not available for you at the moment, or if it's blocked, then you would click the red X in the top menu. So I'll give everybody a few seconds to go ahead and weigh in and vote. And then I'll show the results. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and publish, and it looks like about 34% say that it's not available currently, and about 49% say that it is. So that's a good percentage that it is available, and there has been an install, and people are aware of using Moodle, and there's been a setup available for you. Okay, let's go ahead and go on to the next question. Have you ever embedded a video or an audio file in a Moodle setup for students? Click the green check if you have, or the red X if you've not done that personally. And I'll give you a few seconds to vote. Okay, and it looks like about 50% of us in here have never done this yet, and about 32% have. So we have some great experts and some newbies in this session, and I'm included in the newbies. And going on to our last poll today, do you create quizzes for students to take online within Moodle? If you do, please click the green check, and if you do not, click the red X. And I just saw a video about creating quizzes in Sloodle in Second Life, so that's going to be a great feature to investigate too. So if you create quizzes in general on a Moodle setting, if you please click the green check or the red X for no, and I'll publish those results. And 51% said they have not, and 28% in the room do. So great representation of Moodle experts. And currently there are no fees associated unless somebody, a company or so, is hosting the Moodle for you. But to use Moodle, download Moodle, and install it, it's all open source and it's free. And now I'm going to pass the microphone to Warna, who is going to talk about why Moodle.
Okay, thanks very much, Kim. We've always put in a session here about the newbie question, but we really don't have a specific newbie question. But I'd like to take a few minutes and talk about my experience and make the statement that we're all learners and teachers here. And if I talk a little bit about my pathway, those people who are teachers in the session today, hopefully you're going to drop in some suggestions, and maybe Tomaz, our guest, in a few minutes is going to address some of the things. But I thought I would throw this in, especially when I saw a professor there who hasn't used Moodle. And a couple of things that brought me to this discussion about Moodle is I was looking for the classroom blog environment. So I needed something that was a closed environment, and students and the teacher were allowed to collaborate together, and they were to interact with each other, and they were allowed to skill build together. And there's so many opportunities I saw for both students, parents, and teachers to be participants in this particular platform. But, you know, on the way here, there was a lot of humps and hollows to get to the understanding point that I have today. And thank goodness Kim and Peggy are very, very patient, and they guide me in the direction of a resource. And so I'd like you to take that thought in your mind that this is a wonderful place to grab onto resources. And if you don't have your question answered today, we'll talk about how to make that happen. One of the difficulties I found with the Moodle is because it's a closed environment, it's very difficult to find examples so that you can model on and say, oh, that's really good. Well, that's where I should have put that. So that's a bit of a hurdle to get over and master. And the next one for me specifically was Moodle has a language. I think every content management system or learning management system has their own terms for different parts of how the system all works together. So that was another hurdle to get over, is how am I going to learn this language? So again, you know, accessing the resources is a great way to address some of those things. But then there was another hurdle. There's an overwhelming amount of information and resources available because the plus of Moodle is it is open source and has a tremendous source of support. Of course, my dog's barking now. Lose my train of thought. To help you through. So it's taken me a few minutes personally to adjust to how do I decide on which of those great resources is actually going to work for me. So a lot of working with Moodle is trial and error to get from one place to the other. So, but here comes Miguel, who started off her first session with Moodle, and he had a wonderful opportunity to describe for us how it all works together. And not only that, he took the conversation with us after the session, took all the questions that weren't answered, and Peggy organized them all for Miguel, and this wonderful conversation ensued, and that brought us to a conversation about Tomaz. And because we had gone through a very technical explanation about Moodle and how it works, but we thought we sort of missed this piece about, okay, we've got all these tools together, we can sort of figure out where to plug and play with things, but how is somebody actually implementing them in a classroom? Because, right, that's what I was looking for in the beginning, is a venue, is an opportunity, is a support mechanism to provide that learning experience, not only for me, but for my students and the parents. So this is kind of the natural flow we're going with today's conversation. We're gone from the technical part of the nuts and bolts to how do I take that technical part and actually implement it and integrate it into my classroom. And I was so excited to hear that you can actually use this closed environment to blend or complement your regular classroom work. So I think at this point, I'm hoping that the learners and teachers are going to move through this, and I'm going to ask Peggy George to take the microphone and introduce Tomaz in his presentation today.
Good morning, everyone. Almost forgot to click on my microphone. We are very excited to be able to continue this conversation about Moodle and ways that teachers can use Moodle in their classrooms with Tomaz Lasic. The hour that we had a couple of weeks ago with Miguel Gulen just flew by, and it was so clear that there was still lots to talk about, so we decided we should have Moodle Part 2. And when Miguel posted his wiki to begin to answer some of the questions that we didn't have time to respond to during the show, one of the first people to respond was Tomaz, and he immediately jumped in and began to provide some practical, helpful suggestions for ways to use Moodle in the classroom. So we knew immediately, based on Miguel's encouragement, that he was the person to lead our follow-up conversation. And he agreed to join us in spite of the time differences between the United States and Australia. Tomaz is a teacher and an ICT coordinator at Belmont City College, which is a medium-sized public school in Perth, Western Australia. He has about 20 years experience working with people young and old as a coach, a mentor, and a teacher. And you can already tell by comments he's dropped into the chat that he has a great sense of humor. And really his mission is all about working with teachers and students to help them find the greatest motivation and ways to engage learning. And much of his work has involved the use of Moodles. So we asked Tomaz to come on and share some of his very best Moodle suggestions and strategies for teachers, and to guide us through some of the various tools and blocks and various things that they have on Moodle that might help you to do that in your own classroom. So thank you so much for joining us, Tomaz, and I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Peggy. I hope you guys can hear me. What an introduction. I'm just a teacher. First of all, thank you, Miguel, for dobbing me in on this. I always enjoy talking to teachers, and thank you, of course, to Kim, Peggy, and Lorna for providing this resource. I always enjoy talking to teachers, even though teachers can be a very tough crowd because we sort of have this inbuilt DNA to sort of pick and evaluate and judge. But I also know from sort of many years of working as a teacher and with teachers that we can be wonderfully honest and professional and really want to share and learn. And I suppose which is why we're here today. Now, I thought I'd give you just a bit of a tour of our school Moodle, but it's through slides and offline rather than a live visit. And there are a few big reasons for it, and one of them is privacy, and I hope you understand. But I do hope that the tour of what seems to be a bit of a walled garden, quite often, as Lorna may have suggested in her opening speech, that will give you a sense of how Moodle could perhaps work in your class or school to really support and extend teaching and learning. So I'm just going to go through some of the slides. I've animated some, and I'll use this wonderful magic wand, which I just immediately fell in love with. Okay, now I'm not sure how clear this is, and I'm just going to... okay, here's how it works. Okay, like your laser pointer. Okay, well, we're just going to start from the front, and I'll sort of take you through. This is the front page of our Moodle. As I point out here, it's completely customizable. This is our techie head of play one afternoon and did it all himself, really. And at our school we publish all sorts of things on the front page. I edit this and usually provide something provocative for kids to kind of raise their attention. So this week I'm saying, who needs a lung? I'll grow back if you smoke one, or so will your leg, and that sort of, so kids actually get to read it. We have links to instant sort of sites. So for example, Mathletics, our school was involved. As for teacher, how to schedule a resource, computer lab, that sort of thing. There's daily notices for students here. There's the humble me with that video on TeacherTube that kids tease me about still. And I'll explain some of these things as we go through. Okay. And the modern part of the home page of Moodle, and by the way, this is by no means some superlative design. There are some fantastic school designs, school Moodle designs, but we just haven't invested that much amount of time and effort in the design. What you see here, I've already circled them for you, are the course categories, and this is really the heart of Moodle. Again, as I state, it's completely customizable, and this is where the courses hide inside. Okay, so for example, we've got them divided in science environment, that's our department, and I'm not sure if you can zoom in, but it says 2009 upper school, senior school. So we're going to look into that a little bit more in depth, and I'm going to take you to one of my courses. Okay, this is some of my colleagues' courses. This is a Year 12 economics course, an ancient history course, Year 11 geography, Year 11 history, and this is my little humble course, philosophy and ethics. And we'll look at this one. As you can see the teachers, you can see who's actually teaching the particular course, and there's a little description of a course for the kids to kind of know straight away what the course is about. I once again deliberately provided the kids and provided a guiding question: what is a happy life and how to live one? And I put deliberately, what do you think? If you have the answer, please put it in the chat for me. Okay, now we're on the front page of the course. As you can see, we can, first of all, once again, this is not some sort of particularly beautifully designed thing, but I'm sort of more going for functionality than design in many cases. So excuse the scribbles. We can insert pictures, labels. This is, by the way, topics view of the course. There are several views. You can be a weekly view or social format or topics format, in which you have sort of, I've divided the course into several sections and put several resources underneath as they fit. As you can hear here, I've pointed out there's all kinds of resources here. There's forums, there's web links, there's a web page here, there's a wiki we're working on, there's a file, there's a few others down on the side. The first thing we're going to look at is one of this little block here called latest news and notices. And this is an enormously useful thing that has saved me literally hours of annoying sort of wait time. So for example, I have a Year 9 group. I have a really, really rowdy Year 9 group, and I've trained them to just read the latest notices first. It saves me 10 minutes of nagging, please, John, Steve, please wait, not chewing gum. Now I just say, read the notices, and I simply proceed over the shoulder teaching, which has just helped enormously in my classroom management. So I'm using news and notices, the news forum, which is a standard feature, and it comes with every course automatically actually, is a great place for instructions, for catching up on notices, for issuing things over the weekend even, or teaching missed class or things like that. So in this example, I'm not sure if you can actually see it, but I've put in a few provocative questions on the issue, on the question of who, what, or rather who is a person, and I've sort of teased the kids a little bit with the questions. And I've asked them to put in a blog entry during the class. And please note this on the bottom that I've asked them to tag the entry as a person. Now I'll show you in a minute why I've asked them to tag the entry as a person. So the kids went and did their blog entries. I've got a little blog menu on the side of the course, so it's a matter of clicking and naming the particular blog entry. Yeah, the kids put in their thoughts that I've asked to the questions. There's some extended, some haven't. Before I refer to tags, see over here, if you can see it, by tagging the blog post as person, I can literally just click on one. If I click on that, for example, in the main course, I will see all the entries with the tagged person. It just saves an enormous amount of clicking and then going back and forth from participant to participant. Yeah, and I can see up to the minute what kids are up to. Okay, we're back to sort of the second bottom part of my course, in which I've got different blog entries that the kids have tagged. So, for example, we've got the argument, the cyberbullying, the kids' names. I'm going to go into great depth of that. And a calendar, which is a great way to keep track of dates and things and assignments, things that have come. Perhaps I'll show you the detail of it. So for example, I've got here Socrates, that's when we started working on Socrates. What is a person discussion is here. For example, this is the task due, and this is the upload, where the kids can actually upload the assignment. And it's all clickable, it's all within a click away really. Monthly views can go weekly or other time periods, so that's pretty flexible like the rest of the Moodle. Before we go any further, actually, I just something that didn't mention earlier on. These slides actually just show the standard features of Moodle. We're not going into any sort of customized plugins or blocks and things like that, because I think Moodle in itself, just what you get out of the box, there's an enormous variety of possibilities for teachers and students alike. Okay, now on the side, excuse me, just give me a while. Okay, there was an interesting. I'm glad. Excuse me. Kim asked a question about the embedding video. It's one of the most common tasks, and actually really, really beneficial task for the for particularly some of the more visual kids that we have. Yes, we certainly can embed or insert videos in Moodle fairly straightforward, really. And thanks to Miguel, actually. Miguel, if you're watching this, thank you to pointing out the embedder. And so now we have a wonderful collection of little videos on Socrates stored in a Moodle. There's about 10 of them, and kids can flick through them at their leisure. So yeah, audiovisual material is fantastic, and the inbuilt plugins allow virtually all standard sort of types of files to play automatically in Moodle. What I'm pointing out here is a bit of a pet project of mine of lately, which I've actually blogged about as well. I started getting sick of copy-paste jobs that the kids were giving me in other classes as well. And that is a glossary. It's one of the most useful blocks, and you can customize it. It's either yourself doing the whole work, or much better, you get the kids to actually construct it. So the kids are actually constructing glossary entries as we go through the course and changing them and improving them. So for example, I'm not sure if I got, let me just have a look. No, I don't have the detail of it, but the kids can actually, what they can do is they can actually comment, not just add the glossary entries, but actually comment on each other's glossary entries. They can rate them as well. And I've already started seeing the beginnings of sort of this great collaborative approach to actually improving learning that is often so much talked about, but kind of lacks when it comes to grades and things like that. But these guys are actually starting to take it up. Okay, another great collaborative tool, which is that's a treasure trove of possibilities and activities, is the forum. Really easy to set up. And as the forums go, I just provide some sort of instructions or rules of purpose or behavior, especially for some of the younger kids. I often just say keep swearing and spam to yourself and put a smiley face and they'll get it. If they don't, there's always ways of cancelling them out or moderating them out, and so it's not a problem really. And what we're seeing here is just a standard forum. There are about 4 major types of forum. This is a standard one when anyone can start a discussion thread, and there's one started a couple of days ago on censorship, or we had a provocative article on Facebook, is it killing our brains and that sort of thing, because I wanted kids to actually argue with reason and back their assertions. There was question on ethical story of Goldilocks and whether she stole the porridge and whether it was right to steal the porridge, and that sort of thing. That really, which sometimes all you need to do is actually throw the bone to the kids and kids pick it up themselves. And I showed an example of what a gold mine is, and this was I think it was a conversation on working with friends and working with people you like. And we got about 30 posts on it, within 10 minutes, and the kids started arguing with each other. And you can see by the way it's structured, because this is actually called a nested view, one of the 4 possible views that you can view a forum in. You can quickly see that Sam responded to Jamie, Ashlyn responded to Sam, and Jamie responded to Ashlyn. Now Jamie also responded to an earlier question by Ashlyn. And if you read the fine print, there's things like, I agree, people you don't know are more likely to judge you, and then Jamie asks, well, explain. And that is just gold. That is when the teacher steps back and lets the kids do the questioning and thinking and arguing, that sort of thing, and trying to validate what they've learned or back themselves up. It is far more powerful than me standing and banging on about the importance of referencing. I mean, you unconsciously tap into this peer pressure where kids actually want to do okay and not look stupid in front of their peers. Okay. Speaking of assessment, this is probably one of the most commonly used assessment items in assignment. There's a variety. You can have it offline, you can have upload multiple files, but even a simple one, for example, I want the kids to send me they had to send me the file by Friday, 27th of March. We actually changed the deadline since for different reasons, but the date stayed. And if you simply explain, look, upload task 1 as if you are attaching a document to an email, and I said that's enough explanation for 99% of the students. And the 1%, they'll work it out, or you help them along. Okay, and it's as simple as kids picking up, clicking on the browse and literally just like attaching an email and send it to you. Now what you get is, I blacked the kids' names out. I put in here just the lazy teacher, not entered data yet. I have marked them, by the way. But what I've actually first done, I've provided an audio feedback to individual student. Because quite often, you grade a paper and you make those couple of remarks and a couple of ticks and smiley faces and say good. But what you really lack, especially in the larger classes when you have sort of 25, 30 kids, and you don't actually have time to spend and talk to a kid individually for a number of reasons, time or embarrassment or peer pressure or whatever. I actually use the opportunity with the assignment to just talk to them through the paper, talk to them for maybe a minute or two about their work and how they've been going and all that. And the kids are responding to that fantastically well. They almost care more about the audio feedback than the actual the sort of the grade that they get. Not that they don't care about it, but and it's a lovely way of actually really connecting with the kids. Now, some of these kids have submitted things to me in paper, which is fine, or other means, but this one kid chose to submit it online, so a file simply appears, I open it, grade it, put comments in it, either type them in or insert audio feedback, and that's it, and away we go. All of this is collated in a grade book, which I don't have a slide on here, but I can imagine all of these actually collated from the whole course for each individual item, which becomes very, very handy at the end of the year when in reporting time. Okay, at any time we can see what the kids are actually up to. And I know some people sort of consider Moodle a bit of a walled garden, but I think this is a really powerful feature. And for many, many reasons. Now, when I talk to kids, I just say to them, look, I'm God in Moodle, I can see everything you do. Now, just like a good God, I'm not going to abuse it, okay? But if you start to abuse it, it can easily be spotted. So I'm really, there's been one case of cyberbullying, and we spotted it and deleted it and dealt with it within 30 minutes. It was all gone, and the kids got the message. Anyway, coming back to it, this is how you can see, for example, the participants in the course. These are all the kids. We're mucking around with the pictures lately, so excuse the blank faces. But Mary missed our class. I know she didn't come on Thursday and Friday. And there she is. She was there, and I was scrapping this off last night at 10 p.m. And I say, so she checks things from home. Time is now 6 p.m. Now, for those who don't believe it, I'll show you. And this was yesterday. Here's Mary. Here's her IP address, so I can actually tell where she's from. I mean, this is not school IP, so it's definitely from home. And you can tell me she accessed it at 8:01, 8:02, 8:45, and the last access was 9:06. And she looked at her blog and the course view, and I can tell exactly what resources she actually looked at. We can have more detailed statistics if you like, which, as I said, can be useful, but I want you to burden yourself straight away with it. Okay, now I'm just gonna. Okay, I'm gonna go away from my course a little bit and show off some of my colleagues' stuff, so I don't think I'm the only guy that does Moodle at our school. This is from a good friend of mine, Kim. He's passionate about his ancient history and Rome and all that, so he's going to find a whole heap of videos and documents and things for the kids, and the kids just absolutely lapped it up. He's the guy that he put a course on during the holidays, and he had one of the kids actually submit an assignment to him 2 days before the term started, because he saw it online, he just did it. So, can you imagine his surprise and his delight and when that occurred. Just like in my course, there's lots of resources. There's documents. You can put documents in folders, for example, so when the kids click that folder, it expands with a whole bunch of files. There's a forum. He loves his Latin, so he called it Forum Server. There's a bit of Latin swearing in there, but it's too little for you to see anyway. He's got videos, the web page, and his course looks slightly differently. He ran a pretty tight ship, so he actually broke it down in 4 weeks. Maybe if you recall that my previous course was my philosophy course is in topics. And they're the kind of two main views that most teachers would use. Not that I'm discouraging you from using other courses or course views as well. There are some very funky setups for, especially coming up with Moodle 2.0. You can install, there's things can expand and all that, but as I said, the design is actually not, I'm not that crashful on the design. Okay, so let's have a look at Kim. Kim is a master of quizzes. It comes back to one of those questions again at the start. Kim's famous first to 100 quiz. Here's the guy that invented first to 100 quiz, because what he did, he just asked kids about 10 or 20 questions, and he said first, excuse me, and he just said, well, I want you to get to 100% as fast as possible. The answers and questions were jumbled at each attempt. The kids got instant feedback as soon as you submit it. And just to show you what actually happened is that the kids really took it to heart. And I'm not sure if you can see, but if you can zoom in this here. This guy, this Chad, he first had a go and it was 9 minutes and 20 seconds. He did the whole thing. He got 10 out of 10. But then the little bugger tried in 5 minutes again, just to improve his time. So it did 3 minutes and 50 seconds. Now, Chad's pretty smart, but what about Ryan? Ryan got his, 10 out of 5, because you can tell the time, because Brian was fooling around before. Okay, so he got 3.6 in 10 minutes and 36 seconds. But then Brian thought, well, hang on, I can do better than that. So he spent a bit of time, and about 6 minutes later, he tried it again, got 10 out of 10, took him 5 minutes 37 seconds, and he got an instant reply from half Latin with Mr. Barrington, which is what Kim previously had put in as a feedback when a certain grade is reached. Okay. Quiz. Okay. Now, another favourite of mine. This is the colleague of mine. She teaches English. She had this really low literacy year 9 class, and she was a wits into what to do with them. So it was actually a bit of a collaborative project. Herself and myself were working on this. And we got these kids to, they all watch Big Brother. What a waste of time, but if it helps literacy, so be it. So what we did, we actually got the kids to record their audition for Big Brother using their mobile phones. They love that in itself. Posted it up. Kids got to vote by choice activity, which is pretty much just like a little poll. Very easy to set up, actually. And in the end, they got the results displayed, who won it, who got in the house, even had a class party after that. And they reflected, very importantly, as through a quiz, with a structured essay question. And they really sort of kids started to own their writing, because it was something that the kids did themselves, and they owned it. It wasn't some sort of textbook thing that they had to learn. And it was a huge success. This is how the choice actually looked up. Looked, and kids literally just pick one of these and away they go. Okay. Yeah. As I said, plan, record, evaluate, vote, reflect, all in one, and all using their work. And this is really strengthened Moodle. Is the kids own so much in it. It doesn't have to be. You can be complete content Nazi sometimes, and just provide content and continue a very, very didactic approach. But you can also, of course, go completely the other side. Now Moodle can actually support both. Okay. Another absolutely awesome tool is our wikis. I love wikis, and a lot of my colleagues use them more and more, actually. This is my current Year 10 class, and this is actually what we've got here on now, and I literally worked on this yesterday for a couple of days ago. once again, this lot where I was getting sick and tired of copy-paste jobs that I would get. So I actually got into ask 36 questions. 6 questions beginning with what, 6 questions where, 6 with who, 6 with how, 6 why, and 6 what if. And I'll talk to you a choice that connects people around the world. So I put the instructions here in the wiki at the start. And if you scroll below, I'll do a bit of a screen cut out here for you. The kids actually then pick their own topic now. They pick McDonald's and YouTube, Family Guy, and bands and Google and MySpace, terrorism. I will look at that. This kid for the terrorism in a second. But it's really their work. And the nagging has gone down 200% because I'm not getting them to do something that I decided to do because they decided to do it. Given the parameters, and they'll do it. And wikis are fantastic because all of a sudden with wikis, and if you use the right terminology, it's their space. And each of these is actually genuinely is their space. I'm not sure if you can't even zoom it in. But the ones that are hyperlinked, that means that the kids have already started their work, they've put some editing in there. The ones that have a little question mark at the end, the kids are just probably still drafting their bits on paper and doing a bit of research and things like that. Okay, let's look at the one, the student who's working on terrorism. I think I'll pick that one out. Okay. Yeah, this student has started out with questions and sort of added a relevant video, so he's got a few questions. Actually, I've cut out a few. There was actually a couple of really good what-if questions down, sort of a higher order thinking. So he's got what is terrorism, what's the main form of terrorism, what do the terrorists get out of it, and that sort of thing. I mean, it's not the question that the teachers would ask, and it's certainly different when the teachers ask that question than the kids ask themselves that question. Now, interestingly, this kid actually went out and found a really good video on what is terrorism on YouTube. Now, YouTube is banned at our school, so he must have done it from home. Okay, so this is sort of proof that Moodle absolutely works after hours. I don't have many records to show it to you how busy it gets, especially in the assignments of doing kids uploading stuff. Now, one of the real benefits of wikis, apart from being such a malleable and such an editable tool, is the history. You simply click on this history button and it will show you exactly what edits have been made, who made them, and what were the previous versions. This is a fantastic tool. If you've got, for example, kids working in groups over an extended period of time, the freeloader that always gets away with, I've done a bit of work in a group and I'm just going to copy the rest of the grade like the rest of the group. Well, not so with wikis. You actually can very easily show by clicking on this person, on this kid, on this student, and pull up all the edits that he's contributed. And, whether it's through rubrics or something like that, you assess them, or verbally, or whatever you evaluate his effort. There's no lying in it. Okay. Reduces the ability. Another fantastic tool that we use quite a lot, more and more actually. This is not my invention. The Swiss Army knife from Moodle. But it so holds this database. It's a bit technical to set up, and I freaked out the first time when I was faced with 50 choices to make and all that. But it's actually, once you get the hang of it, it's fantastic. It actually reminds me of a quote about Moodle that I put in staff sandpit, and I put a big picture of a sandpit. I said Moodle's like a submarine, lots of valves and switches, but once you get the hang of it, you can go anywhere you like. Now that quote's not mine. I borrowed from, I think it was a fella called Dennis, someone out there. So thank you very much, Dennis. For this one, I used an easy preset photo gallery. And this was actually one of my relief lessons when I was relieving the teacher. I quickly set it up. I just got the kids to post the funniest photo they could Photoshop. And the kids were coming up with fantastic things, really creative, and it was a really good relief lesson. I had no other materials. I should have put in the zoo recent trip to the zoo where the kids got their pictures and videos and posted them up, and it was really, they commented on each other, oh, look at that monkey, no, that's you, and that sort of thing. You know, it gets a bit silly, but yeah. Okay. Database, I've actually used as an ICT integrator, sort of my part-time role as well. I use databases a lot with staff. I simply sent the database out. It looks like a survey. The staff is just a click a box job to what they can do. Now the idea is not just to survey, but to actually be able to search. If you're stuck and don't know how to use, for example, how to navigate around Moodle, in the database you can actually search and see which person obviously next to you can navigate, does know how to navigate in Moodle, so that people can actually ask them rather than kind of referring to me, oh Thomas, how do you do this, how do you do this, how do you do that. Well, chances are there's a person next to them that knows how to do it, but just didn't have the information before. So that's been pretty quite successful actually, and when people begin to sort of own it a bit more. Okay, another one for staff use, the Staffist database is a literacy database where we encourage teachers to contribute their literacy strategies rather than coming from the experts, coming from the teachers themselves. And what we have is in a list view, which is sort of your summary view, a quick summary for busy teachers. So for example, I'm teaching a class for year 9s, I want to work on, you know, KWL strategy or something like that. There's one. This is an ESL strategy as a spreadsheet. Okay, yeah, that sounds good. If I want more details on it, I'll just click on the icon here on the little magnifying glass and go to a single view, and it actually expands, and it would look something like this. And another colleague would explain how to use it, when to use it, who to use it with, what do you need to consider. And this is really so valuable, especially in the context of each school, because there are certain kids that you just say, no, you wouldn't use it with Dylan so-and-so, you know, because don't burn yourself, I'll burn myself. Okay. There's also a section of resources they can use, people can use. So for example, something downloadable, some sort of worksheet or chart or something like that, people can easily attach those. Now, Moodle is not all work. We've started bringing in Web2 in the big time, with the fact you can embed a whole heap of stuff. Things like videos and maps and mind maps and things like that. And I deliberately embedded a little Frapper map, and kids were adding themselves as fictional characters, and of course Borat had to pop up and back in my home in Kazakhstan. That was very funny, but it was interesting was actually how it brought teachers and kids together and started laughing at each other, and at the same time sort of learning a little by stealth really. We also insert a lot of school package learning objects that we find there's lots of them around the place. In Australia we've got a fantastic organisation called the Learning Federation which packages these things, and you can leave the kids year 9 class in the last period, the hot period of the day, which they otherwise are an absolute pain. You can leave them in one of these and you'll be sure you'll get a good lesson out of it, and actually kids enjoy themselves because they actually really compete with each other. And one thing I'm really proud that we actually stuck to is we've got a lot of disadvantaged kids and a lot of actually deaf kids. We've got a big deaf unit at our school. So what I actually made as admin, I made a little sticky block where maybe you haven't noticed, but on all the previous, I'll go back and I'll show you. Anyway, every course at the top has actually got a little sticky block translated to Auslan, to Australian Sign Language. And for deaf kids, whoever they are, if they know the word, they simply click on maybe it's a web link. They click on it, a sign bank appears, a person, there's a little recorded video, the finger spell it or their sign language, and it's helped enormously with some of the low achieving deaf kids, and it's made a real difference to quite a few kids. Okay, so Moodle, I say make it work for you. There's a few funky screenshots of the stuff that I use. I could talk to you more about it. And as I sort of flick through, I thought of a few things that are springs to mind. For example, star stamping. It's really funny. It's but maybe next time we've got another session. At the end, I'd just like to sort of share with you what I believe in, and it's what makes Moodle go are people, not the technology. It's the people, the school community, and just by virtue of having Moodle in your class, your courses or subjects, they won't automatically become more desirable or some sort of better performed by students just because you have this thing online. Moodle really goes hand in hand with good teaching, so we must never forget that. Now, there'll be many changes in my teaching thanks to having Moodle and just like my colleagues and the whole school really. And Moodle has really become a backbone of the entire ICT strategy of the school and beyond as well. And yes, there are thousands of ways to do wikis and forums and blogs in this Web 2.0 days and all that, some better, some worse and all that. But I just think having it all in one really secure, yet really hugely flexible spot, and being sort of able to control as little or as much as we want, has just been an absolutely wonderful and really quite a transformative thing, I think, at our school. Now, all of this does require work and lots of it, okay, but as they say, if you fall in love with destination, you will settle for it there. Okay, I won't prattle on anymore. I've probably used up all my time. Thanks again for the opportunity to share these things with you.
Thank you so much, Thomas. A few questions flew by, so I know we're running out of time, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the show, but if, Thomas, if you could stay a little bit longer, is that okay?
Sure.
I know it's
Absolutely.
2 a.m. now, almost. Okay,
no,
great,
that's fine.
thank you. We appreciate you staying up so late. I know that it's a big task, and we appreciate it. So if you do need to go ahead and leave, we understand. We're going to go ahead and continue rolling. Okay. Before we get to questions, and we'll get to give you an opportunity, everybody, to ask the question if you'd like to stay. If you need to leave, our show's an hour, so it's almost that time. If you need to leave, we understand. But if you can stay, we're going to continue recording and asking questions. Next week is April 4th, and we're going to be talking about what is a screencast and the tools that you can use to screencast to create those screencasts to use in your classroom. And we're going to have our very own Lorna Constantini presenting about screencasting next week. So you want to be stay tuned and join us next week for a great, great session. There's also a survey that we would like you to fill out and give feedback to Illuminate. And if you click on that link, that will take you directly to the survey. And we appreciate your comments and feedback. And you can also leave feedback specific to the show at our live classroom site. And I'll put that in here. And the Future of Education is another mean community that Steve Hargadon has set up. And next week there are going to be some sessions that are affiliated with Future of Education. On Tuesday, March 31st, Erin Riley will be interviewed and talking about helping young people in the new participatory culture. And that will be at 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific on March 31st. There was also a session last week as part of Future of Education about College Ready at the College Ready New England Annual Conference. And Steve Hargadon hosted a panel that talked about exploring ways of using Web 2.0 technologies to reach out to the lower economic minority group and the underserved youth. There's a wiki that's available, and that link is in our Share Tabs link. And we'll be giving you the Share Tabs link in just a moment. So you can view that recording and interact with the that wiki and get some feedback and comment in on that session. And I wanted to thank Thomas, and he's going to stay on for a little bit longer for participating today from Australia. And Steve Hargadon, who's our founder of Classroom2.0.com and thefutureofeducation.com. And thank you to everybody who participated. And most of all, thank you to Illuminate for creating this forum for us to share and gather each week to learn and get together and interact with one another. And one more thing before we go on to questions is, Peggy, I'll pass this to you if you wanted to briefly mention about the guidelines for participation from the conversation with Miguel Bluen from San Antonio ISD a while back. And it's great to see you, Miguel.
Thanks, Kim. I meant to mention this earlier right at the beginning, because one of the follow-up things that Miguel did after his session with us was to create this Google Doc that I'm very excited about, and I think you will be too now that you've seen all of the really interesting, informative ways that Miguel has been using and Tomaz have been using Moodle. And Miguel created this project, which is a Google Doc, where he's inviting all of us to go on and share our uses of Moodle in teaching, learning, and leading. And it can be both for adults and for students. So we included the link to this Google Doc in our SlideShare tabs, and we would love it if you would go there and add your resources so that can be a growing resource for all of us. So thanks, Miguel, for creating that for us. And I'll turn it back to you, Kim.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and if you wanted to ask a question, go ahead and click on the hand with the green arrow. And one of the questions that went by is, what's the difference between a forum and a glossary, Thomas?
Forum, first of all, forum is a far more versatile thing where people, multiple people can participate at the same time. So in a forum, you can literally have 25 conversations going at the same time. Glossary is far more limited than that. I usually explain it to kids with the forum. Imagine a room with tables around the room, and at each table there's a particular conversation going on, and kids can literally walk through table, from table to table and participate in conversations, and there's a record of what's being said. Glossary is more of a one-sheet thing that sort of people just drop in and add on as they go. Yeah, I suppose glossary and wiki are a bit more similar to each other.
Great, thank you very much. Awesome. That was a question that several people commented about. And somebody else asked about uploading files. Was that done through the assignment activity, or is there another way to do that?
There's actually quite a few ways to upload files, because you can actually attach files even in forums. That when I was sort of started up Moodling, and the only thing I knew was how to upload a file as a resource and how to operate a forum. So I just got kids to sort of shuttle files through back and forth through the forum before I discovered the assignment. They can also upload files to their blogs and through their wikis, and I think it's even the web page. So there are many ways of actually doing and transferring files. Now, what's really exciting actually, the Moodle 2.0, which has been released hopefully in about May, has actually got a portfolio application which is sort of being sorely missed, and people have replaced it with things like Mahara and a few others very well. But yeah, that'll be a real step forward to storing files and sharing files as well.
Okay. And what's the difference between an activity and a block?
Activity is a blocks can display activities. Activities are sort of things that activities can be graded, right? Usually have a grade attached to them. They can be displayed as blocks. Blocks usually refer to things the way they're displayed on the side of the course. And activities are kind of most of the communication activities. Most of the things like forums and wikis and chats and that sort of thing are stated as activities. Whereas blocks can be actually for a bit more static, I suppose, blocks rather than activities. Yeah.
Okay, and somebody asked, are you using the default wiki when you were showing your slides?
Yeah, just the default wiki, yeah. I mean, there's lots of other features in the wiki, you know, the linking and what I found probably the most useful thing about wikis, the little sort of strategy, the extra strategy is actually breaking up the main page of wiki into separate pages so each kid can have their own. Because what I soon find out that only one person, of course, can edit a wiki at a time. Now, I foolishly tried to edit a wiki with 20 kids. You know, I said, well, go and edit this wiki on globalization, and 20 kids jump on one and say, oh, still we can't get in, you know, we lost out because so-and-so's editing. So, okay, well, there's a strategy around it. So we just enclosed it with hard brackets, and that creates a page for each separate kid or topic or whatever, and that really solves the problem. So it's been pretty good.
Okay, that's interesting. Because I know we have that issue when we try and edit wikis at the same time for our show wiki. Another question was, how do you get the layouts to work, and is there a trick?
Layouts. What do you mean the layouts?
The Moodle layouts and the themes.
Oh, the themes. Oh, to tell you the truth, actually, I'm a bit of a dummy when it comes to theming and design. As you can probably tell, I'm more of a content guy. You need to talk to a person. I'll tell you what. The person you talk to is Julian Riggin. He is he's a theme extraordinaire, and I think you can have the whole show on design. He's fantastic. Yeah.
And he's Moodle man, right?
He's a Moodle man. That's it.
Yes. Okay. All right. I think that question was more the layouts for databases, but
okay. Layouts for databases. There are things you can do just with. It helps with databases. It helps if you know a little bit of HTML. It helps, but you don't have to, right? But what I found with databases that they're a little bit tricky. The crucial thing with databases is really the pre-planning stage. We have to kind of really have a clear idea of what fields you're trying to have, what you're trying to achieve. What will the person see? What will be the list view? What will be the single view, and that sort of thing. So you almost have to stuff it up once in order to do it right the second time, if you like. And once you do that, just do like a dummy database. It will take you time, but it's a skill that you cannot pick up. And as I said in the presentation, database is a fantastic tool to be working with because it's so incredibly versatile. The stuff you can put in, and the fact that the kids can actually put in themselves saves you a whole heap of time of uploading stuff in a way. It's a useful skill. But in terms of skills, a bit of HTML helps, but not needed. What's more important is you actually have an idea what you're trying to do with it.
Okay. Excellent. My knowledge of HTML is limited.
Same as mine. I know the basics, but yeah. I'm not your code stuff a guy. It freaks me out when I see it.
Yeah, my interpretation of HTML is very limited. Another question was about creating form quizzes.
Right. I actually haven't done SCORM quizzes yet, but what I found possibly the easier way than doing it in Moodle is actually you can import it in from different formats. Like hot potato is dead easy way of creating quizzes. Hot potato, I would really recommend hot potatoes. Yeah.
All right, because I saw somebody, I think Mary mentioned that in the chat about hot potatoes. And somebody asked what the name of the portfolio feature is that's going to be released this summer or in May.
It's actually called Portfolio.
Okay. All right. That was an easy question.
Yeah.
And somebody mentioned when each evening you look for inappropriate content. About how much time does that take you, like per student or for the number of students that you deal with?
For what appropriate content? For
inappropriate content or inappropriate postings or
okay. I actually have to tell you the truth, I don't look much for it because I have my army of spies out there, and that is kids actually look at them themselves. And you'd be surprised how vicious they are with each other. And because they know, they are aware of tracking capabilities in Moodle. So, I just show them straight. First thing I show them is, look, I can see every quiz check you make. So whatever you're trying to pull, it's not going to work because I've got to hit black and white. And the fact that you said, oh, it wasn't me who typed up, that means, well, someone else got hold of your account, you gave it to them. If that's the case, well, we'll investigate and change your password, that'd be it. But apart from that, really, the kids know. Kids know, and it's amazing. They just sort of police each other, and we are not some sort of, we're a pretty tough school, let me tell you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And somebody asked if there's a plagiarism tool within the Moodle setup.
I think there's a plugin. Recently came out, and there's something I've bookmarked the other day. On top of my head, I've got in my delicious.
Okay, yeah, I know there are websites that you can use.
There's Turnitin. I see Mary chatting on Turnitin, but there's another one. There's actually like an open source thing that you don't have to pay as well. If someone could look it up, it'd be great. I've got it in my delicious. I can't get to the date. But I can look it up and I can post it if you like afterwards. And I think they've actually created like a plugin for Moodle as well, so you can actually have it. And if they haven't created a plugin, chances are someone's already working on it now, because there's about 500 of them from Moodle as we speak.
Okay, that's something we can look into. And if anybody else has a question that they would like to ask, please click on the hand to raise your hand, or put your question in the chat, and we'll be sure to try and answer those as much as we can. I know Tomaz is probably tired. It's 2:10 in the morning his time.
Yeah, there's a question in the chat room that's mine too, Kim, about the grade book. I think it's pretty extensive. I don't know whether Thomas wants to address it now. I'm kind of keen to hear about it, so there's some pressure.
No, that's fine.
Do you use the grade book function in Moodle? Do you use the grade book function in Moodle?
Not so much. I'm quite familiar with it, and I think it's a fantastic tool. Really is another one of those Swiss Army knives that you can do amazing things with. But I don't use it simply because we got a mandatory reporting system, CIS, which statewide use and all that. So we actually don't. I just don't want to double entry all the marks and comments and things like that. So I use it for every now and then, if for example, that the kids are, for kids who might be failing, considered, close to failing, that sort of thing, use a grade book and sort of give them a bit of a feedback through there, or calculate their scores to see what they need to pass and that sort of thing. But other than that, I don't actually use it. I use it simply not because I don't like it, but I just don't want to double up my work really, because it's something they mandatory have to report on. If it was up to me, guess what I'd be using, yeah.
So I guess the question, Thomas, is that the assessment for the activities that you're actually creating for them are pretty much just feedback to the students then? Would that be right, or am I missing something?
Okay. Yeah, no, that'd be, I'll just use it for feedback, not so much for the actual grading,
Thank you.
That's pretty easy to do, because you either add audio or just type it up,
Okay, another question, Thomas, was how much time would you recommend teachers spend learning how to use Moodle before they're actually in a course, involved with a course with students?
I think it really depends to what you're trying to do. If you are, and of course it depends on the level of skill. Now, I'm not going to fence it here, and I'll tell you, but in about you can learn how to log in, navigate to the course that someone else has created for you, and upload a document. Let's say if you know how to attach a file to an email, if you've got that level of skill, it will take you about 15 minutes to do that. 15 minutes to 20 minutes, and you'll be able to actually do it. And that's going to usually the first step that people take in using Moodle as a bit of a repository, if you like, of files and things that they have, course outlines, worksheets, that sort of stuff. So you have to pass things around. But yeah, of course, some people take it a bit longer. But if you're reasonably versed in sort of basic computer skills, I think 20 minutes to half an hour is all you need, really. And then you take it from there.
Yeah, it just takes time to get familiar. I think the hardest part is the setup and the installation versus creating the courses and maintaining.
Yeah, that's the part. I mean, that's the part that teachers don't have to worry about. I've been to sessions where I said how to use Moodle, and they talked about for 2 hours they talked about how to install files on my server, and I'm sitting there saying, no, I don't want to hear about that. I want to hear what's going to do for my year 8s, not files on the server, and that's kind of what people often miss the point. Installation, can be a bit tricky, and it is a bit tricky, and you do need a bit of technical, and not just technical skills, but a bit of persistence. But if you've got a run and set up for you, I think it's actually not that difficult. I think it's in many ways that operating Microsoft Word is more difficult than operating Moodle for most things, really.
Yeah, I totally agree. Somebody asked a question about package learning objects.
Yeah, what happens with those? We get loads of them from a place called the Learning Federation, and we simply download the whole folder of it, and we simply unzip it. It's called at a resource menu. If you pull it down, if you're using it, you add an nest package or something like that, and you simply unzip and deploy the package, and actually move this resides, so it actually unzips the file, extracts all the right files, and literally plug and play. And once again, because I'm not that technically versed, I don't know exactly how it all works, but it does work. If it breaks down, there's always a workaround.
Definitely. Peggy asked if you could talk a little bit about your 5 myths about using Moodle, or 5 myths about Moodle, from the blog post you wrote. The 5 myths that you wrote about.
The 5 myths. Yeah. Well, I think the first one is that you need to be incredibly proficient. You need to be incredibly proficient in using computers. And I said before, if you know how to attach an email, I think you're okay. You can use it for what a large percentage of teachers out in the world use it for, just a bit of a storage thing. Then the second one was that I've forgotten my writing here. That you need to be that's right. That you need to be in computers all the time. And I said, well, look, you need an online learning management system, so you have to spend in front of a computer sometimes. But it's really just quite often actually I used just to duck in and as a support. And quite often I would have quite often, for example, you can do many more things with 6 computers and 20 computers in class, because you have kids walking around and collaborating and working together, and actually incredibly stops fooling around as well, because if you've got 3 kids on a single computer, that the other 2 won't allow one to stuff around and play games. So And the third one is, I reckon, is the one that actually mentioned tonight as well, is the fact that people think just because they go online and it's the kids' digital world, this sort of nonsense of digital natives and all that, that somehow is just going to make their, it's all going to be good. But I actually fell in that trap when I started using Moodle, and I'm putting stuff on enthusiastically, thinking, these kids are just going, engage and all that. And within a couple of months, they said, "Sir, can you go back to paper?" And I just fell on my back, said, "Well, what's the story?" And then, the penny dropped, and I said, it's not the technology, it's really have to kind of pitch it to how the kids learn. And the last one, I can't remember the fourth, but I remember the last, I said, it's just something you need to learn. The people, and will replace it next year anyway. If they do, I think these sort of things are where we are heading anyway. I think in the UK it's actually compulsory now for schools to have an LMS, learning management system, which they can't. So whatever you use, it's really it's kind of the mindset that you use, which Moodle helps you acquire. It's like learning to ride a bike. You learn to ride one, you learn to ride all of them, really, with minor modifications, really.
Yeah, that's because I thought that, and I was sharing with Peggy that I thought this was a totally complex, difficult thing using Moodle. I'm an avid reader of Miguel's blog, and I read all the things that he goes through, but he's doing a lot of the install part so that teachers in his district can use Moodle, and I thought, oh man, this is really going to be a difficult thing to learn. And the more I've investigated, your myths are absolutely right on, about my misperceptions of using Moodle in general.
Well, people they freak out with lots of these features and all that, and that's why I kind of deliberately, whenever I talk about these sort of introductory sessions about Moodle, I never talk about the possibility there's 400 possible or 500 possible blocks, plugins, filters, and all that. I mean, God, the thing that comes out of the box is enough to freak you out, to have to work it out. But I think it's actually important to step out of that mentality that I have to be master of everything before I need to use it. I often use the analogy with a car. I said to people, look, do you know all the inner workings of the car before you actually start driving it, or do you just kind of reach a certain sort of basic proficiency, then you see where you can do it. And it's exactly the same in Moodle, really, and not just Moodle, but riding a bike or, a lot of other things, climbing trees.
That's a good point. Yeah, I don't know anything about the engine. I just know how to drive the car.
Yeah. And that
Manuel asks, what is... Yes, absolutely. What do you think about workshop activities?
Yeah, I saw it popping up the chat. Workshop, I've used it once and I've got lost in all the options. So I haven't really, I fooled around with it. But I haven't really used it. No. It's something I need to actually brush up on. I'd like to be able to use it. Yeah. So sorry, Nicola, ask that question. If someone would teach me the workshop stuff, I'd be more than grateful, people. God.
Well, it looks like Jeff Allen said maybe one of our workshop module gurus. He says that it's pretty complex.
Yeah, it is, because I think it's a bit like a database. You need to kind of screw up a couple before you actually get it right. And it is a matter of, I love the word movement, the verb moodling, because it's so accurately describes what needs to happen if you want to sort of break your teeth. And I suppose at school I'm the chief moodler, because I break teeth in these things and make it a little bit easier for others so they don't get as frustrated. But it is, workshop is definitely something I need to look at. I see Mary's posting, just chatting away on how she's using it. So Mary, I'm looking for a tutorial.
That's definitely something to investigate. Does anybody else have another question for Thomas that they want to ask using your microphone or put in the chat?
Actually, speaking of Mary, may I just put in a little plug-in for her? That
Sure.
Look out for a really useful book. That a little birdie tells me that it's called Moodle for 7 to 14-year-olds, and look out for it coming out soon. And I think Mary would have a lot to say about that one. Won't it, Mary? Sorry, I just bugged you in.
Yeah, she posted her link, and she can post it again if she like. And Miguel just posted it. Let me copy and paste.
Yeah. How many hours a week do you get home? Today a little, but usually 6 hours. Yeah, I'm okay.
And that's,
thank you, Mary.
that's wonderful.
I look forward to today. So I'm just responding to a chat verbally.
And how widespread is the use of Moodle in your school, Thomas?
I'd say about half of the teachers are using it actively. About 3/4 and up to about 3/4 are using it sort of, and then another quarter using just sort of passively, just to access things rather than actually put things on and work with it. But out of the staff of about, what have we got, about 50, 60 teachers, so and then I'd say about 30 of them are actually sort of putting things on. And it could be as simple stuff as putting a few files on. About half of those put about just a few files on, and they're so pleased with that. And some people get a bit more adventurous and venture out, but the use has just gone through the roof and very quickly, because it's custom designed by us and for us, really, not some sort of top-down software that you kind of have to use.
How do you get your teachers to become motivated and to join your crew of Moodle teachers?
I think the best thing is dropping hints. Just getting, over the shoulder. And, as I said, I think in one of my last posts, that teachers, we're a very pragmatic lot. If we see something good, we become, oh, that looks all right. Oh, okay. Oh, how do I do that? And, then you can explain things. And, of course, how you explain things, of course, depends on the person. How, if you bamboozle them straight away with the options and buttons, they'll just go, whoa, this is what's played over my head. I'll just stick back to my paper things. But it's really, I think it's really important to, rather than talking about the software, I think it's really important to solve it. The way to approach it, the way to spread it, the way to encourage use is to solve a real classroom problem there. And it's imagine me coming up to a teacher and saying, do you want me to show you the features of Moodle database? Wow. And he goes, what are you talking about? It's computer training. Bugger off, I'm not doing it. But if you come up to the same person and say, well, do you reckon you can do a photo class gallery? The one that kids can comment and rate and all that? Oh, yeah, I could do that. Well, would you like me to, show you how to do it? Oh, yeah, I'll have a go. So it's a totally different approach. And you use context, sort of teacher problem, teacher speak. And teachers, we're a pretty smart lot, we're a pretty switched on lot. We can be also very stubborn. But, and that is by far the best way. And to spread it, really, you need in a school probably 2 or 3, or sort of small number of people who are proficient with it and use it and spread it and that. Hopefully they're good communicators as well. And then the rest of it really spreads. But what you also need is actually support from above, so that it's not just kind of tack-on thing, but it actually becomes owned by the school. But I reckon the biggest thing that you can do to introduce school, to be able to use more successfully the school, is to get the kids on board. So when the kids start asking questions, well, why don't you have a Moodle course, sir? That is a pretty powerful way of getting people to at least think about it. And if you share, I just see Miguel typing in the link to my last post in one sentence, what we did last time. And it's really incredible. That, as I said, that was one of the best 8 minutes of my time at that school, because all we did is I asked, okay, just give us one example of when Moodle helped you, and people totally uninvited just came out of their woods, but the most powerful statement actually came from the person that everyone considers she's complete dummy. She's one of those people that you ask put a mouse on the top of the screen. She'll actually pick up a mouse and physically put it on top of the screen. And she goes, well, I'm trying Moodle. I've come to Tomaz's session and I'm going to put my first document next week. And the room just, everyone just went. So if a person like that, instead of me, says something like that, I mean, that is 10 times more powerful than me going on about it. I'm the resident technology now. And in that way, you're really you're sort of encouraged by stealth rather than by design, really. And that works really well. But as I said, people make Moodle go.
Definitely, it's definitely the people and sharing what they've done to convince others. It's worth giving it a try themselves.
Yeah, I think it's actually not even a matter of convincing. It's just mainly and showing and letting people decide. Because if it comes from them, if they own the decision, it's human psychology. It's how we all work, isn't it? We all love it if it's our idea how to solve it. The fact someone else has thought about it, but if you turn it into mine, that's good.
Definitely. And like you said, modeling and just showing them, the benefit of using Moodle versus paper pencil.
This is fantastic. This is I'm really enjoying. Yeah, it might be late tonight, but I've really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for noting. This has been fantastic.
Well, we're so glad that you stayed up, and we're very appreciative of your time and that you sacrificed your sleep to join us today. It was phenomenal. I said to my saying my sort of statement at the start of the year. This year I intend to attend one Moodle Mood somewhere in the world. I hope that this is kind of the intro to Moodle Mood. If this is what happens live, I want to go to all of it. Yeah. Yes, definitely.
Okay. All right.
Are there any other questions? I think so. Are there any other questions before we let Thomas go to sleep and Mary? Well, it looks like that's it, Thomas. Again, we thank you so much. Hope we didn't keep the baby awake.
No, he can sleep still.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
And if it, then we'll go ahead and sign off.
Yeah, if people want to follow and all that, I think there's been links posted, but I'm Lasic on Twitter, Lasic on Twitter as well, so it's probably the easiest way to kind of keep in touch as well.
Okay.
Okay.
This is Thomas's name on Twitter. You can follow him on Twitter, and his blog we've listed right there on the screen, and it's in our share tabs, and you can click on the share tabs link right now, and it will take you to our share tabs link with his blog posts, some of Miguel's things, the Illuminate survey, and of course the live website. And the recording and the chat and the MP3 files will all be posted later at the live site that is listed in the share tabs site, the share tabs links, and all of that will be posted later this weekend. So we want to thank you again for coming, and join us next week when we have screencasting with our own resident experts of the live Classroom20.com staff, or co-hosts, not necessarily staff. But anyway, we hope that you'll join us next week at the same time. And again, thanks, Thomas, and have a great evening, morning, afternoon, whichever your time zone is. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. You're welcome all. I'll go and get some sleep now.
Okay. Good night, and again, thanks.
See ya. Thanks, kid. We'll stay in touch. See you.
Bye-bye.